I'm Valiana Carter, and today I'd like to talk about my favorite part of the brain, which is the striate cortex. The first thing I'd like to go over are some of the basics of the striate cortex. The overall purpose of the striate cortex is to process the sensory information that's taken in from the eyes. It's the first area that receives the visual information from the eye and specializes in visual processing skills such as perceiving movement, things that are moving around it, what direction those things are moving in, etc. Logging non-movement, noticing where stagnant objects are, keeping track of this, etc. And it's also really good at recognizing patterns. These are all skills that are more likely to be needed in a fight or flight type scenario, and therefore they need to be processed first. These skills also are really good for noticing your friend across the room, though, and going and saying hi, or recognizing all different types of flowers in a big field of flowers, or finding an earring that you've dropped. And that's why this area of the brain is my favorite. That's my favorite aspect of it. The striate cortex is located in the occipital lobe and is only 1.5 to 2 millimeters thick. It is so thin, but has 2 million neurons. And in such a small space, it also has a super precise map of the visual area that the eyes can see. And everything is precisely plotted, just as it is outside of the brain. Now, in my striate cortex and through my eyes, I see everything every day and clearly already find this incredible. But what I really wanted to do with this presentation is dive further into it and step into someone else's eyes, so to speak. So I decided to research further into what others different from me might perceive in their striate cortex and what the striate cortex might look like in other species besides humans. The first thing that I looked into was the purpose of the striate cortex in those who are blind. Through my research, I found that this area of the brain is frequently repurposed to process auditory or tactile information rather than visual. This can be seen in the bottom left photo, where the green area represents the area that is typically used to process touch, and the purple is the area that is typically used to process auditory information. The light blue in sighted people is where the striate cortex is and where the visual information is processed. But in the blind person, you can see that it has been repurposed to further process the tactile and auditory information. Research also suggests that in blind people, this area of the brain may be repurposed to process movement, and other research has suggested that it could be repurposed to process language. Some studies in those who have not been blind their entire lives have shown that this area of the brain is also activated when reading Braille. I also looked into where else striate cortices are seen and what this looks like. It turns out that all mammals have been shown to have a striate cortex, and from my research, it seems that this is the only living beings who have striate cortices. Some of the striate cortices in these animals are very complex, such as in animals like the gorilla in the top right, and other primates and mammals that hunt. Some of these striate cortices are very simple, such as in the anteater or other insect-eating mammals. And from my research, I found that it is suspected that because the striate cortex is only found in mammals, that it was first developed in an early species of mammal and was then passed down to all other mammals. From all of this, I have looked into and studied more about the striate cortex and what it looks like in the average human, what it may look like in someone who can't utilize that part of their brain for the typical processing that it is meant to do, and what striate cortices might look like in other animals. Thank you.